I miss.
Hey. Oh, you kiss it, then I'm drifting off your love. Keeps me floating, girl.
I miss.
Oh, and ooh, it feels so good. I wanna come down. Girl, I'm missing that love. Come on. Ooh, babe, I'm missing all those kisses. Baby, bring those lips to me. Oh, babe, I'm missing all those kisses. Baby, bring those lips to me. Come on. Oh, when you're not around, girl, I'm weak.
I be tweaking.
I swear I be hearing things. Oh, yeah. Hey. And if I cannot have you, girl, I'm fiending. Oh, that's such a talent you bring. Yeah. Hey. Ooh, and day is too long. If I can hold you in my arms, if I can find a real good love. Ooh, that kiss is a drug to me. Baby, your kiss is all I need. Come on. Ooh, it feels so good, baby. Oh, come on. Ooh, babe, I'm missing all those kisses. Baby, bring those lips to me. I miss it already, girl. I'm missing all those kisses. Baby, bring those lips to me. I miss it already, babe. I'm missing all those kisses. Baby, bring those lips to me. Oh, babe, I'm missing all those kisses. Baby, bring those lips to me.
Good morning, good people. Good Sunday morning. This is Tasha Napper here, and I am live in studio today with Cassandra Matz, and we are having a girlfriend conversation about divorce. It's good to be here this morning. You are tuned in to I Do, I Did, I Don't on What's in It for the Black People Media. Good morning again, and I want to welcome Cassandra J. Matz, who is here to talk with me this morning. We are just really here having a conversation. We're just having a coffee chat, girlfriend chat about our experiences, kind of what that means in terms of divorce in our lives. And so welcome into our conversation this morning. So I don't even know where to start. First, let me start by telling the listeners, please like, share, and follow What's in It for the Black People Media, as well as the I Do, I Did, I Don't page. We all know someone who's walked through divorce, who's walking through divorce, who's thinking about divorce, who has been divorced, that could use this information, that could be helpful, or maybe they're the child of divorce and they're looking for resources as well. So I really want you all to like, share, and follow both What's in It for the Black People Media, as well as I Do, I Did, I Don't. So let's get started. We have had some good conversation. They've been short in bits and pieces, but they've been really, really impactful. Both of us have walked through a divorce in our lives, and we are both better on the other side of divorce.
Absolutely.
Which is wonderful, because that is one of the reasons I do the show. It's important for people to see us. It's important for people to know that they can walk through this and be better on the other side of it. And as we walk through, I don't believe that everybody has to relearn the same lessons over and over. And so that's part of the reason for sharing this broadcast and this information. So let's start. I think the listeners have heard a little bit about my story. Let's start with a little bit about your story and what you want to share about divorce?
Well, I appreciate the opportunity of sitting beside you this morning, because when Mays Jackson said that you were going to have this platform, I was like, oh my God, that is so needed. And now you are my best friend in my head,
Hey,
right?
hey, best.
And although I'm not an advocate for divorce, when I got married, it was for life.
Yes.
It was for life. But I also realized that when I was going through it, I really didn't have anybody to walk me through it.
Yeah.
Because it was such a taboo, and people wanted you to be silenced. Like,
Mhm.
why are you spreading, or why are you talking about, or why are you sharing? Well, I'm sharing for several good reasons.
Yeah.
It was cathartic to purge, especially when I didn't have money for a psychiatrist, you know. Also, too, I found that other women were suffering in silence. And when I started talking, they're like, oh, my God, if she's talking, I should be talking.
Yeah. So you had that same experience where people just didn't say much, and then once you started to talk about it, folks opened up, and you realized not only had they been through a struggle, but they probably needed to have some additional support
and lean on me.
Yeah.
And we joined together resources, because when you're going through a divorce, your resources dwindle.
Yes.
And so now it's a rebuilding situation.
Mm-hmm.
And why not build a community while you're rebuilding yourself?
So say more about that. When you say it was joining of resources, what kinds of things did you see happening?
What I saw happening is, if I don't cook, she cooks.
Yeah.
My friend cooks. Hey, I made a whole pot of this. Come over and get this for the kids. I have to run out. I want to interview can you babysit? So we're just heavy lifting with each other.
That's
allowing
awesome.
each other to rebuild our lives, because that is major.
Yeah, it's like we're back in community again. And I felt like going through, I thank you for saying that. First of all, that you're not an advocate for divorce. Neither am I. But we know that it happens, right? It happens, and people still need to be able to be whole at the end of the process. They still need to be able to walk through the process and have the support that they need. They still need to be educated about what the process is, lest they be taken advantage of, which happens often in divorce court. And so, while not an advocate for it, I am an advocate for making sure that people have the information that they need and they can be whole and better on the other side of the divorce. So I appreciate you saying that and clarifying that, because I probably need to say that more often. Yes. I don't want people to, I still believe in marriage. I just didn't believe in that one anymore. And so, yeah, it's like we are in community again once this happens, and you find your new community, you find your new, you're finding your new balance and ways to support each other, and you're finding your support. But I felt like I didn't have as much of that in marriage. What I had was my ex-husband's community, and I was so steeped in that I wasn't really building more and experiencing more of my own until probably toward the end of the marriage. Yes. Did you have that same experience where you're feeling like I'm steeped in just here in his community, and I don't really have my own, and you started to rebuild that afterwards?
Okay, so fortunate enough for me, I kept my identity. And a lot of women morph into their husband. I noticed that when a woman come into the room, oh, that's Philip's wife. Mm-hmm. It's never her name. So I always kept my identity. So when I walked into the room, that's Cassandra.
Yes.
Just happened to be married too. You see?
That's so funny. I remember this funny story. We were in college, and I started dating my ex in college. And this young lady that I was tutoring, or he was tutoring, but both of us tutored. And she said, he was tutoring her. And she said, oh, that's his girlfriend. And I said, no, he's my boyfriend. And she has never forgotten that, as did I. But it's so easy to become that person's almost possession or thing, as opposed to who you are. So it's so impressive to hear you say that you were really able to keep your own identity through the marriage, as opposed to only being so-and-so's wife.
Exactly. And that was so important to me. Just like in the beginning of the marriage, and you look at your wedding pictures, how vivacious you were,
Yeah.
how slender you were. So we kind of made a pact that we were going to stay as closest to that picture to the end,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
But guess what? Who had to do the heavier lifting? We did, because we have the kids.
We always do. Yeah, it feels that way, at
Yeah.
least. We always do. I think there are so many responsibilities and there's this mental, almost attacks that we have. That's not the right way of saying it, but this extra mental load that we're carrying, because we're thinking about things like, well, did you clean the kids' ears? Did you clip their nails? Did we get the Valentine's Day cards for school? Just all those little things that make up part of the family.
Yes.
And part of it functioning, that whether you're working or not as a woman or a mom, you're still carrying those things.
And you're absolutely right. So at the beginning of our marriage, we talked about eventually me coming home, being a stay-at-home mom.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important that you set those things up, i.e. live off of one salary.
Yeah.
Because I was in corporate America, he was in corporate America. I had my first son. I was still in corporate America, but I was also in the Matz family America.
Uh-huh.
So my world changed. His world did not change.
Yeah.
Meaning that I was doing double duty. I was working in corporate America, then I come home and I start my other
Your second
Matz
shift.
family. Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. So that's a little difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And that transitioned me out of corporate America into being a stay-at-home mom, because if we want more kids and we want to put our values in the kids and we want to make sure that they're whole human beings, I have to come home.
Right.
And so that's what I did. So I was a stay-at-home mom for 21 years.
Okay. 21 years, and you got divorced after that.
Yes.
Wow. So did you have young children at the time of your divorce? Were they young?
Young in a sense, but not young.
Okay.
I had one in college.
Okay.
So let me just back up. When I talk about, being a certain size,
Mm-hmm.
in my head, and I tell my children all the time, you were planned, because it's 4 years between them.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I needed that 4 years to reduce sizes
Mm-hmm.
and then gain it again, and then also
And-
forget about the pain of having them, right?
For real. As if we don't forget that, we wouldn't have another one.
We would have another one. Yes.
I remember saying, I don't want to ever do this again.
And then you do it.
And then
more.
I had two more.
Absolutely. So, so yes. Repeat the question again, because I just
You were just talking about taking that time that, you had made that commitment that you were going to try to stay to the same size. Your
Yes.
kids were playing. They're 4
Yes.
years apart.
and during when I got my divorce, like I said, I had one in college, so he didn't experience what the younger two experienced because he was away.
Okay.
So he had that utopia of having both parents at home, taking those 4 vacations a year. He had it all. Then my daughter, she
Mhm.
was on her way to college,
Okay.
right? Because my oldest was getting ready to finish. So she's on her way to college. My baby boy was on his way to high school. So you see, I had one in college, high
Yes.
school, and so that I can afford them.
Yes.
And I
You
can give
timed
them-
that
so I can give
well.
them everything that they need and a little bit of what they want.
Right. And you didn't have two in college at the same time.
Exactly.
Nice.
Exactly.
That won't be my experience, but nice.
So it was manageable.
Yeah.
Right. And it was a little more challenging because the baby boy got the brunt of it all,
Mm-hmm.
because he was there walking with me through the divorce.
Yeah.
And my daughter was on her way to college. So she didn't get it as hard as the baby boy got it.
Okay. Do you? So we had this conversation a couple weeks ago about staying for the kids, and does it work? Does it not work? And there are strong feelings on both sides of that argument. That some people say yes, it works. It's making sure that the kids have both parents and access to both parents and the income of both parents and all those things. And other people say, no, it does not work at all. What it did was teach my children some very wrong pictures. It gave them a very wrong picture of what marriage is. And that has impacted them going forward in the year. So what's your stand on it? What do you think? Does, in your situation, your kids, did stand for the kids? Did you do that? Did it work? Did it not work?
It's amazing. because I'm divorced after 30 years of marriage. And so I had a lot of people say, "Are you crazy? You've been in this marriage all this time. You need to stay. You got kids." And I'm like, well, no. Kids are buoyant.
Yeah.
And they're resilient. And they'll bounce back. Now, they might not be on the couch. I'm going to try to make sure they're not on the couch all their life. They might have to have a few therapy sessions, but we're going to roll with that one.
Right.
Right? And so I didn't believe in staying in a situation just for the kids, because you're not showing them anything but heartache, grief, and that's not healthy.
Right.
But I also did not stop them from being with their father.
Absolutely.
And every holiday we spent with his side of the family. So there were holidays I was home alone because I'm like, I want you to continue with what you're doing. Please go.
Yeah.
You know?
That's big.
Right.
That is huge. And it's a sacrifice to do that, but you do it because you know that that's what's best for the children.
Absolutely.
And absolutely having access to both parents is in a healthy relationship. If they're, I guess I should say, with healthy parents, if the children are subjected to harm or, any other craziness, neglect, or anything going on, then yes, they should absolutely be encouraged to have wonderful relationships with that other parent, because they need that.
Right.
Like, we don't necessarily need it anymore in that time, but they really do.
And I had to be mindful of my language. Even though I felt something, I felt some type of way, and I wanted to voice it because the kids seemed as if they were an ingrate.
Yes.
I'm the one in the trenches. I'm the one that's doing this. I'm the one. But then you have them over here empathizing with the person that think they the victim. It's like, are you aware that I'm over here making wine out of cheese?
And they are really not aware of it. They are really not. Well, listeners, you are tuned into I Do, I Did, I Don't on What's in It for the Black People Media. This is Tasha, and I am talking with my guest, Cassandra Matz. We are just having a chat about divorce, and, we're covering stuff like expectations. We are talking about just starting out and the kids. Whatever comes up is what we're having a conversation about this morning. So please do share, like, and follow the broadcast, and also the I Do, I Did, I Don't page. Cassandra, you were just saying how you had to mind your language, and that I know a lot. Some women do that well, and men, I'm not just going to talk women, but some men and some women do that well and understand the importance of doing it, and others do not. Whatever comes up comes out, and the children are impacted by that. And it can be a really sad situation because you feel, like you said, you feel some type of way. And sometimes not saying that feels inauthentic, but if we're taking inventory of the impact of those words and the intention of those words, then it's really important. I tried and still try really hard not to say anything negative about my former spouse, especially to the children. And I realized as boys, their dad was their superhero, and they needed him to be that superhero for them. But what that meant, like you experienced, and I wonder how many women experience this. If this is, I have a feeling this is quite common, that then you get the brunt of it. You're the wrong party. You're the person who did something wrong. They don't understand what's happened. Many times we're not willing to explain that to them, in part because sometimes they're just so concrete and they don't get all of the complexities of what's going on in a marriage and in a divorce. But also, to maintain the integrity of their image of their parent, there are some things that we don't want to share either. And so it's hard.
Yes.
It's really hard to mind your language sometimes and not say the stuff, especially when something's happening and you're in the moment and you're just like,
Yes. Absolutely. And you're so spot on with that. And my children see me, there's no gray areas with me. It's either black or it's white. And I can hear a problem and immediately I want to solve the problem, right? So my kids have never seen me balled up in no fetal position crying ever in life. And even at funerals, I don't cry at funerals. And my kids made mention of that, like I'm a Teflon Don or something, right?
Okay.
And then my ex played off of that I'm a Teflon Don. So then he became the good cop.
Gotcha.
I became the bad cop.
Yeah.
Only because I saw problems. I have to be able to think clear. Tears muddy the water, right? And where I come from, the family that I come from, I've always been the fixer. So quite naturally, I'm the fixer in my family.
Right.
And so my children saw me as I'm the strong one, he's the weak one, and we have to go over here and baby.
Yes.
I'm
You
like,
have to be a little bit more empathetic and give him time.
Yes.
And yes. Yeah.
And then there was a play off of that as to shift that over to me.
Exactly.
And I'm like, oh my God, what kids are you?
And it, sometimes it feels like the parent that is there the most gets the brunt of things, or the parent that seems to be the stronger. It's a lot of emotional work that we have to do, and a lot of emotional support for them while we're trying to walk through the process and heal ourselves. But sometimes it feels like the absent one is the one that gets glorified in some way, and you're like,
yes.
Wait a
Like,
minute, wait. I'm the person here every day doing this, doing that, making sure. They just don't see it because they expect that. I guess that's just supposed to happen. That's what you're supposed to do, right?
That's what I'm supposed to do. Also, I wanted to keep the mental state of my kids intact. I wanted to make sure, because these were critical, pivotal points in their lives. I had my oldest about to start his life. He's graduating. I had my daughter about to start college.
Yeah.
I need her to be successful. I had my baby boy coming into high school, which is a transition within itself, going from being a baby to being independent.
Yeah.
And I needed everybody mentally well. So I kept my home. I fought very hard to keep my home. And my home was in foreclosure. In foreclosure. And I fought and I fought. I know when I went to court, I was my own lawyer. And I know the judge looked at me like, she coming back again. She is butchering the language of law.
You got to do what you got to do, right? I had a period of time where I had to represent myself as well after actually being dropped by an attorney because I had not paid, because I was shouldering a lot of the bills. And so that meant the attorney bill wasn't getting paid, although they were stretching it out and just it was ridiculous. But I had to do it myself too. And I was like, I'm going to figure this out and find a way. One of the things that was super helpful for me, and I was so blessed to be in this position, I was able to have time at home and still have pay during the divorce process.
Right.
And so that is absolutely unusual, but it was so God providing for me because I needed that space. I needed the time. It was just impossible. It was impossible for me trying to manage work and perform at the level that I had been before and walk through this process and make sure the children are okay and, just compartmentalize at times. This wound up being one of those times in my life I didn't compartmentalize. I just couldn't, right? It's like you said, I'm the strong one. I'm the one that everybody goes to. I'm the calm one in the midst of a crisis. And so you don't see me freaking out, and that doesn't mean it's not all going on inside. It just means you see something that's a little more calm on the exterior, a lot more calm on the exterior, actually. And I'm figuring it out. I'm just like, okay, this is what came at me. We figure this out. Not a lot of time. So I don't spend a lot of time and stop to cry.
Pity party.
To feel. And for me, I need to do that more because it was detrimental for me to not get that out. I remember one time I was sitting with my My best friend is amazing. She came and she's listening today, I can see. But she came and she just spent about a week or so just here, just supporting us, and me and the kids, and making sure that we had, she, when she couldn't be here, she sent somebody to prepare meals, so that a little bit was off my plate so I could manage it. She checked in every day to make sure I was okay. She was just amazing. I tell people all the time, she teaches me how to be a friend.
Yeah.
And so at one point she was here, and I had just had a court date, and it was a tough one. And I was just feeling just this ball of emotion, but it was all inside and I could not get it to come out. Like, I needed to cry. And she was encouraging me to just do that. And we're just sitting by the water, and I'm trying, and I just cannot really let it out, because I always had to be that strong one. I always had to figure it out. And I think in some way, maybe I thought if I let it all out, I'm just going to totally lose it. I don't know. I still cannot figure. It was like there was just this blockage. I could let so much out, but the rest of it, I could not let the dam break for some reason. Or it just was just going to be, I don't know. I just still don't get it. I need to work on that with a therapist. But
no, I totally relate to that, because if you let it fester inside of you, now you might have another ailment. I've always heard that
yes,
you cannot let things fester because it creates other health problems.
Mm-hmm.
So even though my children didn't see me cry, I gave myself 5 minutes every single day to cry as hard as I can.
Okay.
And I timed it. I had a food timer that I never use for food. And I cried as hard as I could because I had such an elephant on my back. Not only was my home in foreclosure, but we collectively, because I signed the documents, owed the IRS $250,000.
Oh, my goodness.
That
wow.
We both were on the hook for, right? We had our own business. And me being a dutiful wife, as he bring me papers to sign, you my husband, you my Nubian king. I don't see past around. You here to really be my security blanket, right?
Right.
So when you had arrows pointing to things and an X, just sign here, sign here, sign here for our tax return, I signed. Not knowing that, we owed money, and I know we owed money, but I thought a check would accompany that.
Yes.
And it wasn't. So I'm on the hook for that, right?
Got you.
So going through the divorce, I had all of that and trying to save my home and trying to get out from that. And mind you, I was a stay-at-home mom. So
That's
I did
a lot
not
of weight.
work
That's a
for
lot of weight.
21 years, right? But I worked outside of the home, meaning that I volunteered a lot. I didn't just have any earning income come in.
Yeah.
And so how pressing that was on my chest. So crying allowed me to release the pressure that was on my chest. And then clearing my head to say, how do I eat this elephant? A bite at a time.
Yeah.
Start with the tail.
Okay.
Right? And so what would secure my family would be to save my home. So my kids and I would not be homeless.
Right.
Right? And so when you have a home, you can think outside the box and you can chew through all the other stuff that's coming at you. And so that's what I did. And as you said that you had an opportunity to be home, you had a check coming in. I had no money coming in, none. When my ex finally left, I had $1.
Wow.
$1. And I'm looking at my kids like, okay, what are we going to do? So I appreciate this divorce because it changed my character for the better. I've always been kind and generous, but I've thrown money at stuff. So if you call me up and you say, Cassandra, can you come over and clean my house? Well, for God's sakes, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is
I'm going to pay for somebody to come clean your house.
Say that, friend. I'm going to send somebody over there. But because I had no money and someone asked me to come and do something, I come myself.
Yeah.
And that was so freeing because it allowed me to connect with them on a different level.
Mm-hmm.
And it brought me back down to reality and really humbled me or not. Not that I wasn't humble before. It just made me appreciate the connection of humans.
Yes.
And giving of service to the other person. This was love that I'm doing for you, right?
Right.
And so me getting back on my feet, I did everything. All odds, ends. I waited. My first love is waiting tables.
Really?
I love being a waitress.
Ah.
And let me tell you why. Because when people come through that door, I can change their minds. They might have been upset when they came through that door, but when they left out from being with me, they're going to be happy and they keep coming back.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that was another character building that allowed me to build my character.
Yes, and serve at the same time, as you're
And
saying.
serve.
So you kind of forget a little bit about what's going on in your world when you're giving to somebody else.
Absolutely.
Well,
So-
that's going to be a good place for us to pick up. We are going to take a break, and then when we come back, we will continue our conversation with Cassandra J. Matz and just talking about divorce. We'll see you on the other side of the break.
WIFTVPM.
Come all the way with me. Don't leave me now.
Church Chicago's Power Hour.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
your host, Angie Mims, and
Terrence Keys.
TD, aka Terrence Daniels.
do you believe that God's going to turn it around?
I got to.
definitely.
Why?
Why? Because he's did it before.
Come on.
And he'll do it again.
Nah,
Yes.
that
Yes.
you can do it again.
Yes. Yes. Come on
Come
here.
on, I better leave that alone. I forget
Somebody
my key.
calling you right now,
Somebody
Lord.
calling you right now, Lord. If it ain't one thing,
Yes.
I better go. God's going to turn it around.
And I feel like we have to encourage the people because so many people are just truly depressed. They're going through the holiday blues, and we want you to know that you don't have to be discouraged.
Discouraged.
But you can, in fact, be encouraged because God's going to turn it
Don't
around.
turn it around. You know, it's me again. God's gonna turn it
Oh, you proved me wrong. This ain't a regular love, babe. It's that waking out your sleep with me massaging your feet, babe. It's that anything you want, I'm only here to please you. Baby, you're in my command. Your kiss sends me a shot of dopamine. Oh no, I never had an interest in love until I met you. And I don't know if it's real or is it just a phase I'll go through. But I feel that it's true. We don't need no labels, babe. What we got is something different. We don't need no labels, babe. Lady, we don't need no labels to show that what we have is something special. For sure, for sure. I don't feel it's a one night stand. No. It's that look you in your eyes, make love in paradise. A one life stand.
Welcome back to I Do, I Did, I Don't on What's in It for the Black People Media. This is Tasha Napper here, your host with Cassandra J. Matz, who is my guest. And doesn't she look wonderful, y'all? In her red, she looks so pretty. We are just talking divorce. We are talking about our experiences. We're talking about the kids. We're talking about the money. We're talking about the process and just in the emotion and managing through it. And what we were talking about before we took the break was this way of now showing up for yourself and serving others, and having Cassandra had been out of the workplace for 21 years and was going now getting divorced and going back into the workplace is just, that had to be absolutely daunting.
Yes and no, because I was fortunate enough to be in the workplace and trained.
Mm-hmm.
I just put that on hold for the sake of my family.
Okay.
To build my family. I brought all my corporate knowledge home. I ran my family like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
You know, my kids are classically trained pianists. They all are hoofers. They tap dance.
Oh, wow.
My son went to college on a full-ride baseball scholarship, and he was drafted for a couple of years with Detroit Tigers.
Wonderful.
My daughter, she went to Howard University. She graduated, and right now she's somewhat living her dream because she grew up with a family of entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all my kids saw. So she's having a little rough time being in corporate America.
Okay.
She's ready to jump out.
Yes.
I'm like, you need a plan.
Yes, she needs a plan.
You need a plan to jump
Absolutely.
out. Right?
So she can work it and get what she needs.
Yes.
And start building her own at the same time.
And my baby boy is a graphic artist. And he told me, he said, Mom, I want to live in Japan. Okay, start learning the language.
All right.
I want you to go to Japan. So he's learning the language right now. He should be graduating from college come June. So my kids fared pretty well. They kept on course because the foundation was laid. Like I said before, I brought all my corporate knowledge home. I was all about my children and my family and my husband.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're pretty solid in that. Mentally, I think this divorce kind of scratched them mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And I encourage them to have therapy. You know, you need to talk about it. Don't wait till you get to my age, 57,
Right.
and go lay on someone's couch.
Mm-hmm.
Correct it right now.
Right.
So that you can move forward. And like you said before, I was home for 21 years. And when the divorce was happening, I have to be able to be self-sufficient, right?
Right.
I have to find a way to make some type of money to take care of me and my kids. And God bless my friends. I got the best friends ever. You know, they never stepped out of the workplace. They had a nest egg. I had them come to me like, hey, you don't have to worry about anything. I'll give you money. I'll pay for this. I'll do that.
That's awesome.
And I love them for that, but I turned it down. I turned it down because I know me, and I know that I got in this being taken care of. And mind you, my ex wasn't a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
He took care of me. He took care of the family. I'm going to give him those props.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
When I used to tell people I was a stay-at-home mom, they immediately said, is your husband white?
Because we don't see that a whole lot.
Ever.
Yes.
You hear me? Ever. So I turned my friends down, and I said, I got in this being taken care of. I got to get out of this not being taken care of. I have to do this on my own. I have to, because you'll give me a fish today and I'll eat, but I won't eat tomorrow because I'll look for another fish. So I have to be able to do this on my own.
Wow. So you got into it being taken care of. You had to get out of it taking care of yourself.
Absolutely.
So what did you do? How did you get back into the workplace?
So how did I get back in? A couple of things. All right. You know, there's a process before you're totally divorced, right? So the process is separation. And in that time, I have a girlfriend who owned a cafe.
Mm-hmm.
And by me being at home, I never stopped learning. I had an insurance license because it's just something to do, right?
Right. Really important.
Yeah. I had a food sanitation license. It was just something to do.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that food sanitation license, and my girlfriend opened up this cafe and she didn't have time to get it, she said, I know you got that license at home. I need you to come over here and hang it in my cafe so I can open up, and I need you to run it. I didn't know anything about running no restaurant.
You just had the license.
I just had the license.
All right.
You know?
But you knew corporate America, and you
corporate
knew you could bring
America.
some of those skills, a lot of transferable skills to bring to help her run this.
Absolutely. And she said, and I ain't got no money to pay you.
Mm.
So I'm like, okay, well, you know what? I'm looking at this as going back to college. This is something this is a course.
Yeah.
And I'm going to learn this course.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an amazing time. And I met some amazing people. And I was a waitress while I was running a restaurant. You know?
All right.
So I had tips. So
Yeah.
I was making some good money off of tips.
That's nice.
Right?
Yes.
So that afforded me. So I got to another point. I have another best friend, and he has an IT company, DTI.
Okay.
And he used to always tell me when I was at home, Cassandra, you're wasting your talent. Why don't you come over and work for my company? Work with me at my company. I'm like, Daryl, no way. Daryl Henry, DTI. And so I'm like, no way. So he kept asking. But this time I heard him because I needed to work. And he said, Cassandra, why don't you come and work with me at my company? He saved me. He really saved me.
I've met Daryl before.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Isn't that something? Good people run in the same circles.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so I worked with him, and this is the funniest thing. He said, I need you to write a letter to one of his customers. I hand wrote it. Let me just back up. I'm so enthralled in my children and being a stay-at-home mom, and my whole world revolved in my community.
Yeah.
I had just got a iPhone. I had a flip phone. I wasn't even texting.
Okay.
I wasn't even on the computer.
And now you coming into an IT company, and
Yes.
it's like all the latest, how fast everything moves, and okay.
I hand wrote a letter to his. He was like, I look back on it and I laughed, but he grew me so, and I'm so indebted to him that he polished up that end of me that I did not know that I did not know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And he taught me how to use the computer, what shift something means. Right?
Okay.
And I never forget, I was typing so slow, he just grabbed my hands. He said, stop. He sent me to a class.
Yeah.
So my friend was paying me to develop me.
Okay. Yeah.
What a blessing.
That is a blessing. It is a blessing to have friends and to have
Yes.
folks that will support you and will show up when you need it.
Yes.
Because when you're going through a divorce, you absolutely need that. And you're trying to find your footing and so that you can create your new reality.
Yes.
And there are people that are out there and are willing to support. Sometimes we have to ask or to step up or remember those conversations of, hey, why don't you come work over here? And for someone to give you the training and the investment in you and the grace, it makes you believe in yourself even more when you're moving
Absolutely.
forward and like, all right, I got this. I could do it. You get a few more skills and you feel really good. Once the divorce happened for me and we were separated and I realized I'm going to be okay.
Yes.
Financially, I'll be okay. This is going to be a little blip on the screen for me. And in my situation, I had left a good job, a very good job, to go back to school full time to get my MBA. It was something I'd wanted to do for years, probably 10 years. And I finally said, you know what, either you're going to do it or you're going to stop talking about it.
Yes.
And so I went through testing. I did like a prep class so that I could be prepared for the test. And then I did a whole year-long program in order to prepare for the process and got admitted to school. Got pregnant with the first baby, and that was hard. So I was working. I was like, I'm not going to give up one dream for the other because neither might happen. So let's just, if I need to make a decision at some point, I'll make a decision about which one I need to pursue. But I kept going with both. Both happened. So I deferred for a year, and I had a full fellowship, and they allowed me to still have my full fellowship deferring for a year. So I defer. I'm ready to go. I got this young child who's just over 1, and now we have to make a decision. And it became, it was a struggle. It was a struggle and a tough decision to make. I wound up going and moving to Indiana in order to go to school while my former spouse stayed here with our son.
Wow.
Who was a toddler. Wow. And I think on some level that there might have been this sense that if I present this impossible choice, she won't do it.
Right.
I did it. Best decision I ever made. And when I did it, I went to school pregnant with the second one.
Wow.
That baby I knew that was all God, because it was unexpected, but absolutely joyously welcomed. But now it's like, oh man, we got to make sure this works. But it had to work. There's this sense of desperation and determination that you have when you're in a situation like that, and you know this needs to work for my family. That failure is not an option.
Never.
So I went pregnant, looked at the calendar, realized that the baby's due date was during my spring break. I was like, this is all God.
I love it.
And that child came during my spring break. That was my middle son. And so it just, and then I took him back with me and finished. So ex-spouse had one kid, I had the other one. And, sometimes it was back and forth. We made it work, and the community around us rose to support us. So when both were here, the school would take both. When both were there, the school would take both. Yeah. It was really wonderful. And I was like, this has to work. And a lot of people would look at me and say, you are just pretty amazing. And I'm like, no, you realize that once you, thank you, wonderful compliment, appreciate it. But you also realize that once you're handed something, you have the ability to do it, and you just have to do it.
Absolutely.
You just have to do it.
And I appreciate you saying it is nothing but God, right? Whether our listening audience is believe in a higher power or a spirit or whatever,
mm-hmm.
It is God that was the leader of my life.
Yeah.
And that ordered my steps and didn't allow me to take one step backwards.
Man, if we could have a whole testimony show, and I talk about the ability for me to stop working and stay home to take care of myself and the children and have pay.
Yes.
All God. Totally didn't expect it, didn't know that was an option that I had available to me. It was God.
Yes.
It was God. And there were some knocks that happened in the process, but I didn't want for anything.
Right.
Did the numbers look unbalanced? Many a times they looked unbalanced, but God took such good care of me.
Yes.
And the thing is, with the divorce, I would never, as difficult as that was, I wouldn't change it.
Right.
And I wouldn't change it because that was the closest I've been to God in a long time. Like we were walking, he was holding my hand, and we were walking this thing out, and I could feel and see his very tangible presence in my life as I was walking through all this, through the circle of people that I didn't realize this community I had built around me was there, and they showed up. Through the financial piece, it was there. Through the support, that therapist that I had, that the kids had, it was all there. And stuff that I thought, I would be so upset about, that this is happening and it's going the wrong way. And before I knew it, a few steps down the line, it had all turned around and it was working in my favor. God was there, and it was God. It really was. So when I finished, as I'm going through the divorce, and I'm thinking, this is all changed. The money looks crazy right now, but I'm gonna be okay.
Yes,
I'm gonna be okay. One, because I know me, and I know that I will run circles around. I will out hustle somebody on any given day.
All day.
Right. We have that was just me growing up, how I learned to live. I will be okay if I need to get SNAP. I have no problem doing that, because I've paid taxes for a long time. I should get the benefit of those taxes at this point. Yes. Whatever I needed to do, I was going to be able to survive. But I knew that I would be financially well in the end, in part because I had gone back and invested in myself and gotten that degree. As hard as it was, I could have found every excuse not to do it. I got one toddler, I'm pregnant with the next one, but I did it, and I knew that was going to pay off in the end. So when I talk about God, it was God.
Absolutely.
It was God. Undeniably, It was God.
And like you said, you invested in yourself, and so did I. Even though I was a stay-at-home mom, I still went to seminars. I still went to events. I still showed up, because as I got all those certificates, that was invested in me.
Absolutely.
It was so that my mind would not wither away,
mm-hmm.
and that I would stay up on something. It was great to have the certificates. Who knows when I'll need it? And Lord knows I needed it, right? And so, as you said, you got closer to God, and so did I, because it's been a lot of tough decisions that I had to make. And in order for me to make them, I had to sit still.
Yes.
And when I sequester myself, I turn off all devices. I come into my home and I just sit and I just ask God to give me guidance. And one thing God told me is that you're going through a life lesson. It's not a life sentence. Keep it moving.
Yes, I like that. A life lesson is not a life sentence.
That's it. And that's how I look at life. I'm going to mess up over here, but when I straighten up over here, I say, God, I got this.
Right.
Trust and believe me. You ain't never got to show me that one
Exactly.
again.
I don't need to relearn this lesson. I
might trip over something new, but this one right here, we got it.
Yes.
Right? And so in laughter, you just laughed. I protected my mind throughout all of this. I stopped listening to the news. Anything negative, I stopped. I would not. I only go to, and to this day, I only watch funny movies. I only go to comedy shows. I still protect my mind.
Yes, you
because
have to.
I needed to laugh. And everything that happened to me, I turned it into a laughing moment. You know, it's still cathartic, you know?
Yeah.
And people are like, oh my God, you are so funny. Only when I'm sitting down talking am I funny.
It's hilarious because you're right. At some point, you just see the humor in all of the crazy that's going on, and you have to laugh at it.
Yes.
And people are like, they're surprised and sometimes taken aback by it, but you have to. If you don't have that, it's already difficult enough.
Yes.
And that one little thing of just laughing at something can relieve so much tension and so much stress and set you on a path. You get your dose of endorphins and all this stuff and set you on a path for a little bit of a better experience that day.
Absolutely. And I so appreciate that. And my kids are funny. They're funnier than me. The things that come out of their mouth, I'm like, where do you get that from? You know?
Yes.
They're so quick-witted. You know? And I so appreciate that they don't have a dark cloud over them. You know, they might have their dark moments, but they can get through that. And that was my whole goal, was to get through this unscathed, and my kids are intact, period.
And you feel like you did that.
I feel like I did that because guess what I'm doing? I'm running for the village president of Olympia Fields.
Now, see, that's amazing. You think about that. Now, this is a woman who was a stay-at-home mom for 21 years, got divorced after 30 years of marriage, figured out life again and got her footing and started again professionally. And now on the other side of all that, running for office.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Yes.
Amazing.
And our listening audience, you too can do the same thing.
Yes, you can. You absolutely can. It's not the process can be daunting and it's difficult, but there's so much growth and learning at the same time. And I feel like I got so much growth personally out of the process of divorce. So when we talk about I had to represent myself for a little while and you had to do the same thing, that's a whole other thing of trying to learn the law. We didn't go to law school to do this.
It's amazing because I laugh at myself now because when I'm before that judge and I'm like, Judge, I'm not losing my house because of fuzzy math or zero money down, interest-free loan. I'm here because of life happened. And I need to keep my home for the sanity of my children.
Yes.
And so as I leaned on my friends who were lawyers, hey, I got to write a motion. Can you walk me through this? And they're laughing. I can't afford you. And I don't want you to stop making your money. I'm believing that God is going to help me out.
Yeah.
But in the end, I lost my house. But I won my house.
All right.
Right?
Okay.
I lost it, but I won it.
So tell us what you mean by that.
What I mean by that is that I went through all the loan modification, and the people out there with the loan modification, they wasn't for us. They were not for us at all.
Yeah.
And so the bank that I had been paying my mortgage to was bought out over and over and over again. So the last bank that had my mortgage, they were like, well, you don't qualify, you don't make enough, and this, that, and the third. My last card to hold that kept my home off the auction block, because it was on the auction block twice. This was the third time that I'm trying to keep saving it.
Right.
They were like, and that was the loan modification, and they turned me down. So my home, this was like a Thursday. So my home was to be sold that Monday.
Oh, wow.
Right? And so I'm like, my last card was to file bankruptcy. When you file bankruptcy, it stops everything.
Uh-huh.
Enough to give me enough time to find somebody to buy my house and let me pay them rent.
Right.
And so that was my thinking. I'm always thinking 3 chess moves ahead. Like, if this don't happen, then I need this to happen.
Right.
And so that Thursday, they told me that they wasn't going to do the loan modification. So I went immediately to the courthouse. Now I'm working for my friend Daryl. I'm doing a whole lot of not working for him, and he was okay with that.
Uh-huh.
So I'm trying to get my life.
Yes.
And so I walked down to the federal building, and that was another thing. I was my own Chapter 1 bankruptcy attorney.
Okay.
I couldn't afford
You
that
had to do what
either.
you had to do.
And so I, filled out all the paperwork. And when I went down there, they were like, well, who filled this paperwork out for you? Me and Google. Google is the Bible. Can I just tell everybody? Don't sleep on Google.
Man, especially my kids are like, ask Google.
Yes. Absolutely. So when I filed bankruptcy, and it was heavy on my heart because I walked from his office to the federal building, just dragging, like, I don't have enough to file bankruptcy. I thought you need $1 million or something to file bankruptcy. That made sense to me.
Yeah.
But just this little bit, because I wasn't in debt.
Mm-hmm.
And so I filed bankruptcy. And when I got back to the office, my phone rang. The bank. This was another day. This was like Friday. The phone rang. The bank. Miss Matz, guess what? We decided to give you a loan modification. What?
See?
What? I just filed bankruptcy.
That's God. That is God. That is God. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. I am so grateful that you were able to come on and just share with us, share life and experiences around divorce and triumph around the life that you've built afterwards, to the point that you are running for. Tell us what you're running for again.
So I am running for Olympia Fields Village President. I am currently a trustee.
Okay.
And I have finished my term. So it came down to the fact, am I going to continue in this seat and re-up for this seat?
Yes.
Or am I going to go for the total leadership role?
All right.
And that's what I decided to do after 28 years of being in my community. I know my community from beginning to end, and the leadership that they need is me. I have a plan and a vision, and I plan to be elected officially April 6th coming up. So I need everybody to vote for Cassandra J. Matz, or tell your friends who live in Olympia Fields to vote for Cassandra J. Matz for village president.
All right. Well, we are going to leave it there. Thank you all for joining us today. This has been I Do, I Did, I Don't with Tasha on What's in It for the Black People Media. Make sure you like, share, and follow. Take care, everybody.
It's that look you in your eyes, make love in paradise. I want a lifestyle. It's that sweep you off your feet, give you everything you need. That's what I'm feeling. It's that don't pick up the phone, cause we wanna be alone. And I never thought I'd feel this way, then you came along and proved me wrong. Oh no, I never had an interest in love until I met you. And I don't know if it's real, or is it just a phase I go through. But I feel that it's true. We don't need no labels, babe. What we got is something different.